Hey Alan, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. How about you, Kevin?
Pretty good, thank you. I had a question for you. Have you ever seen any UFOs or UAPs? Anything that you've ever seen, like maybe in the sky or something that you saw and it's like, man, I don't know what the heck that is.
To be quite honest with you, no, but the closest experience that I had was a bear that had red legs and had a very unsettling sound. It screamed like one of those goats, the screams that you see, but it was a bird with gray feathers and it was like below my house. I mean, that's an experience of the
Wow.
third encounter, I guess, but
But you knew it was a bird, right? So yeah.
No, I didn't. We didn't know at first. we start hearing that. What the hell is that? And my father goes to check it out, and with a flashlight, it was a red bear with red legs, and the eyes open up like in the middle of the night, and it's like it goes all flying. Like, what the hell was that? So sorry, I don't know. Maybe birds or aliens. I don't know. You want to go?
Hey, well, I mean, they're technically dinosaurs, right? So,
no, but to answer your question, no. To be quite honest, I don't remember having like something. Yeah, you see things moving in the sky, and when you're little, you will say, "Oh man, that's an alien. That's an alien," because obviously you're seeing movies and series, and you're kind of getting accustomed to that. And it's like, oh, maybe it's something like that, but I'm pretty sure that it wasn't some of those.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I've never have either, and I've always wanted to see something that you can't explain. What's funny is I kick myself because I didn't know, but there was that the Phoenix Lights. I don't know if you remember hearing about that, but it was in '97. I think it was in March of '97.
No,
I actually just moved.
I'm not familiar.
Okay. I actually had just moved out to Arizona, so at that time, so I mean, obviously, I was probably in the house or whatever, and I had no idea. But it was like these lights that basically went across the whole valley, and it was this vehicle or whatever it was supposedly like huge, where it was blocking out huge portions of the sky, and I mean, tons of people saw it and went over the whole valley. And I'm like, man, I wish I could have seen it. That would have been awesome. Yeah, so unfortunately I've never actually encountered any unexplained, objects. One time I thought I did, but it ended up being like a balloon or something.
A balloon.
I'm like, there it is, in my first UFO.
No. But in the middle of the night?
What's that? No, it was in the day.
How do you well, I mean, just that there. How did you confuse a balloon with a UFO? I mean,
dude, it was up there pretty good.
Not that we know what a UFO looks like, really, but a balloon.
Yeah, I got excited, man. What can I tell you? So, but it's always been something that's really intrigued me. I kind of wanted to chat with you about it a little bit because, there's a bunch of different shows and stuff like that. One in particular that I like to watch is Ancient Aliens, which is that the whole premise that the aliens were here, prior to humans and or taught humans how to
do stuff like the pyramids or the technology.
And I'm not gonna sit here and try to say I'm an expert or try to convince anybody one way or another. I just find it fascinating because some of the stuff really is interesting when you really start to think about it. How come certain things were built? Why were they built in that fashion? How they were built?
Do you remember any examples that they made on the show?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a couple of different ones that they've made. Obviously, the Great Pyramid is Great Pyramid of Giza is probably one of the bigger ones. I think what always fascinated me about those pyramids, it was not something I realized until more recently when I started to actually pay a little bit more attention to this stuff. Is not only how these things were built, but they're not just solid structures. There's portions inside the pyramid that are basically large caverns and or rooms, I guess, for lack of a better word,
chambers and hallways within the pyramid proper.
exactly. And then it's like, how were they able to do something like this? You know, what are we talking, like almost 5,000 years ago? You know, how in the hell were they able to construct something that massive with all the, you know, the architecture that would need to go into the architecture and the engineering that would need to go into building these caverns inside. And then the other thing that I find fascinating with them is if you look at the three pyramids from above, they're actually lined up exactly in the same positioning as Orion's belt, the constellation of the star. So it's like, that's not a coincidence.
I mean,
So,
through observation and math, they were able to figure out maybe some of the. So I mean, I'm not debunking it or whatever. I'm just
oh
thinking
no,
like what you're able to achieve having a particular set of knowledge. I guess that's the key operative, having knowledge
yeah,
upon something. The less you know about something, the more you try to fill in the gaps.
oh, most definitely. It's just to me, I find it very interesting that they were built in that fashion, and you know, some of the things were that I think, like the lineup of the three, were that's not a coincidence. I think that was intentional. The question is, were the people who were building it doing that intentionally, or were they told or helped, by the so-called ancient aliens or whatnot? So to me, it's just, I always find it super interesting. So I know you like to play a little bit on the devil's advocate side.
Always.
So always, always.
If you say no, they constructed this through a very particular set of motions and knowing like the equations and the amount of distributed weight and how perpetual motion or pulleys and all that. No, dude, it was aliens. I'm raising my hands.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I guess I tend to do that, but in a way for me to also make sure that I believe in what I believe in.
Yeah.
Or if I'm not able to sustain a thought, then I must consider the alternative, you know? So
Well, exactly. Yeah.
it was that case that they built the pyramids looking and the constellations and why the extraterrestrial life would, I guess, travel and help the mankind at that point in time to make pyramids. I guess that's the thing that kind of fall in the logic of why or when or purpose.
Yeah, and see, this is where I'm not obviously no expert, I'm not going to sit here and say I subscribe to a specific theory. I just like to think about it because it sounds interesting to me. But it's also, it's baffling on how these things were constructed. So I think it's easy to go back and say, well, they obviously had help, since it would be difficult in today's day and age to build something like that with all the technology that we have. How did they do it back then? But again, like you said, there's no, sure, they may have very well been able to do something like that. Maybe they built them in that fashion. But there's other theories that that say that that these things were built in that specific fashion by either extraterrestrials or what have you, for purposes, whether it be marking specific locations for where they have either landed or maybe settled, or maybe from a standpoint of like a power standpoint, maybe it was formed in that way because they were able to utilize some energy from it, because maybe so there's some technology that they have far exceeded our technological let's be honest. If there was a species that was been around for thousands upon thousands of more years than we have, think about how quickly our technology has grown from the inception of time that we know of to what we have today. Hell, just look back at 10, 20 years ago. And now you think thousands of years, they have that much more technological prowess, that maybe there's a lot of different things that they can do that we can't even fathom yet. maybe we will. That's obviously one.
And the particularity of this, I don't know if in that show that covered that only the pyramids of Giza and the other pyramids in Egypt, but also you got in Central America, the other
Yeah,
pyramids that have been discovered. So just the interesting notion of even though they're separated by a great distance, that they were also doing pyramids in a particular way as well.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And there's also they have different like either like the hylo what is that
Hieroglyphic.
hieroglyph hieroglyphic. Yeah, there you go. It says the English is the second language.
Yeah,
Um,
sometimes.
so sometimes I wonder myself what I have trouble with it myself. But yeah, the that or they have the statues, or the carvings, like the rock carvings, and there are similarities in a lot of the different carvings and graphics and statues and whatnot. That it's like, wait a second, how come these are so similar when it was, impossible for them to traverse that distance, across the world, across the globe at that time. That and a lot of the, well, take a look, take a look at like mythologies and even, a lot of religion, whatnot, but a lot of the times they're all pointing towards, gods, specific gods, and they have their, basically the gods came from the sky, they came from the stars. That's a lot of the, the mythology is has to do with that, and a lot of the, what's the word I'm looking for? The, the cultural stories that they come up with from, that they pass down to, their teachings with the kids and whatnot. A lot of that references, chariots from the sky or from the stars and things like that. And to me, it's like, well, why, and certainly they could, yeah, sure. I mean, it sounds great, but, is there something to that to say that maybe that these aren't just made up stories, that these are, I don't want to say, factual stories that were told, but maybe it was their interpretation of what was going on. Because obviously, if one of the things they like to say is if you show somebody a piece of technology that has never seen technology like that before, it's basically magic. Basically, if you went back in time and brought your smartphone with you back to, the 1800s, you would look like a magician.
There are people nowadays that even you show them the evidence and proof on how things are, and say the Earth being round, and they still think that the Earth is flat. So I wouldn't go that far in time.
Definitely a fair point. I mean, it's definitely a fair
I'm
point.
sorry to go to the ground or flat earth or water, but no, but I get it. It's kind of inconceivable how some things that at a certain point in time, how a culture or a particular race, race is not the word, like particular sector of people living in an area are able to achieve improvement upon their technology and develop, and you will think that it came out of nowhere, but it's like you say, this didn't happen. It was hundreds and thousands of years in the making. Like it didn't come out of nowhere, and people observing and theorizing and putting to test, I guess, in a way, the scientific method, to the point of having the similarity in the hieroglyphics and different cultures. So I don't want to deviate. I just want to touch upon it because it's something to consider. But I want to stay on the alien topic, not go too much into religion, because you can see how, for example, Mayans, Aztecs, the Egyptians, and even people from Japan, like different regions and China have like things that are similar, as far as having either a sun god or praying to a particular figure that was born in a particular uh, time period aligned with the stars, and how that is influenced on their culture and is permeated. Either there was something of in us as a species that is commonly shared no matter the the distance among one another. Maybe one came up with their belief system first and then the other, came with their belief system, and then those beliefs came to be put within the culture or the things that they work with, permeating what they strive to achieve or their customs or all the belief of, for example, burying pharaohs on the pyramids because they believe that the pharaohs were reincarnation of deities, for example, if I'm not mistaken. So put that into consideration, how that's influencing all the things that they did. So I kind of just wanted to touch upon it just for the consideration, but kind of going back to the aliens. Is that something that they really get in depth as far in that show, or is there any other medium that you've been exposed to as far as aliens is involved?
I've always been very interested, and I've watched quite a bit. I watched like the typical shows about the aliens and unexplained stuff and whatnot. And it's always intrigued me, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I believe 100% either way. If you ask me and say, Kevin, do you believe in aliens? I would definitely say that yes, because of basically the Fermi paradox, right? Where the universe is way too big for us to be the only intelligent species out there. Now there's other aspects that I've heard of where that maybe I find maybe a little bit too far fetched, like, and not to say that it's not conceivable, but there's people out there that think that possibly the moon is not natural. It was artificial, artificially built, or it was a spacecraft of some sort put up there to observe the Earth, because we can only see, the one side. We never get to see the other side. Blah blah blah. Far fetched, but there's some stuff that maybe you could probably make some decent arguments over. So it's definitely interesting. And then another thing that's also interesting is like the whole alien abduction stuff that you hear about. And it's like, well, how come everybody's depictions of what these beings look like are usually very, very similar? Now, it's probably makes more sense now because if somebody says alien to you, you automatically think of basically the Greys, right? The big face, long face, big eyes.
Yeah, what I think is the xenomorph or predator. That's kind of
Okay.
That and the Mars attack aliens.
There you go. No, I always go to the small gray aliens, the long face with the big eyes, the small mouth, small nose. So I think that's probably a lot of people's, when they think of aliens, that's what they think of. So now if somebody was going to say they were abducted, whether it was actual true or maybe, we've talked about in the past, like sleep paralysis or, vivid dreams and things of that nature, that's probably going to be their description. But still, it got to that point where that description, where did, that had to have been, there's some commonality there. There's commonality between a lot of these different stories. There's a lot of them are hoaxes, a lot of them are made up, but there's probably a lot of them that people firmly believe in. And not to sit here and discredit. It's easy to sit here and discredit and say it's a hoax. But it's also kind of like on the same token, well, if you don't have any proof, then how can I really believe you? So, it's tough.
It's a stretch because you gotta, in a way, suspend your belief on the things that you are your day to day, and so I'm gonna take into consideration these things. A race from an advanced species travels, I don't know how many. I mean, first to consider that the space and universe is vast. They not only will have to have developed technology, I guess warp technology or whatever technology, time travel, who knows, to come to this particular galaxy solar system and prey upon the people that are living here. And every so often they take someone, do tests on them, and they return them. Why don't they keep them if they see us as cattle or, like a species to be experimented upon? I don't know. Like the accounts of people that say that they have been abducted and then returned, it's kind of it's hard to fathom. out of the
It
gate.
is.
Uh, though it's one of those things that there are so many people talking about it that you start to, man, is that many people saying the same things or just the first person said it and it becomes something like mass hysteria that is contagious and each time that something similar happens because we have no verifiable method to corroborate it, people go to the de facto, oh, then it was aliens.
But yeah, a lot of times that does transpire. Now I get to play devil's advocate on your scenario,
Oh, go for
um,
it.
where and of course I just lost my train of thought, but
Sorry,
uh,
I won.
automatically win. No, you were making the point, and I can't, and I just
Oh,
totally
making the
totally
point
lost.
that it's not verifiable if you don't have like the method and it becomes mass hysteria that people sort of default to, oh, it was aliens. That's the,
No, no, it was the point prior to that you were talking about. I'll think of
um,
it here.
oh man, I'm so sorry. I made a joke, but I didn't mean to counter. You-
You caught me. You blocked my devil's advocate. I'll think of it here in a little bit, but it's still pretty it's still pretty interesting to think about, especially when you consider how large the universe really is. And oh, I remember now exactly. So you were mentioning that you find it, or it would be hard to believe that like a species with the technology to be able to travel such distances would be able to come
uh-huh.
here and then pick somebody up and then do tests on them or whatever, and then put them back or whatever to either analyze them or whatever. But my devil's advocate would be, if an actual extraterrestrial would have shown up here on Earth, what the hell do you think our scientists
Oh, they would do the same. They would, but see, this is the thing. I believe that our scientists won't return the alien, and maybe that species that is coming from light years away that are trying, quote unquote, to help us are more kind, but they're seeing the messed up shit that we do. And they say, no, don't let them see us. They're gonna take us into
think?
they're gonna take us to Area 51 and they're not gonna let us go.
Well, then you could also say, like, how do you know that everybody's been returned? Ooh,
Yeah,
maybe people haven't been returned. But yeah, no,
yeah,
I get it. I get
yeah,
it.
but yeah, that's the sort of thing that I start falling to the how much do you want to stretch it? I mean, I want to be honest with you. I do believe that it's almost quantifiably impossible that there's not another solar system out there that has the same factors or conditions, I should say, for life to exist and have evolved to the point that they are sentient and intelligent, are not able
Yeah.
to well just exist. Are they similar to us? Maybe not. Maybe the composition of carbon and all the other things that are necessary for us to exist and kind of sustain life in this piece of rock that is floating on the void of space around a ball of fire. It's not repeatable in the vastness of space. Now, they're gonna travel just here, or obviously they're traveling. They have a whole system that they communicate with each other, and they do travel instead of all we going to Fiji or going to Europe. They go to Alpha Theta systems, Lambda 34, and they go to the other and want to go and back and hey, how is your family? And they don't want to come to Earth because we're just that bad of a species. I don't know.
I don't know. And maybe, or maybe they're just exploring. They don't know. Yeah, I guess we're under the assumption, or we're making the assumption that they know exactly how to get here, and they're coming here for a specific purpose, versus maybe shit, they were just traveling around exploring, and oh crap, look at this, here's a real underdeveloped planet.
I,
nowhere near as developed as we are. Let's go and check it out. Kind of
I alluded to it just, but do you really think that the government has aliens? Ooh, like you were saying.
no. Ooh. This is a good one. This is a good one. No, do I? Man, this is a tough question for me to answer because there's probably certain aspects or certain things that I do believe that they have. Whether they actually have, there's people that believe that they're actively working with them, and that they're here working with the different governments. And then there's another theory that says that it's not the government that's not allowing the mass population to know about the alien. It's the aliens themselves that are telling them, do not tell them about us yet. So that's one theory. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I do think the government does have information that we don't know about. I think that they have, things that they've maybe collected that are unexplained. Does that necessarily mean it's extraterrestrial of nature? No, but it's maybe something that they don't know exactly what it is. And who knows? Have they found alien cadavers? Maybe, that's one of the theories about Roswell. That the craft crashed and they recovered three bodies. It's possible, I guess. But I just don't know. There's so many different secrets that the government keeps from the regular public. For obviously for legitimate reasons, from a national security standpoint and stuff that obviously we don't need to know. And so you can really categorize that any way you want. I do kind of believe that they have, there's stuff that they know that they don't tell us. Obviously there's the Area 51, stuff. We don't know really what's going on over there, and there's people that have supposedly worked there that say that they've seen the crafts they reverse engineer, worked on reverse engineering the actual crafts that they've collected exactly. So and some of it's very believable and whatnot, and there's no right or wrong answer. There's no oh, look at this fool believes this crap, or look at this fool, he doesn't believe this crap. So, it could really go either way. Honestly, I do think they probably have some stuff that is, unexplained, on whether it's from another planet or another species. I don't know. But I do think there's stuff.
Do you know of the Storm R51 event?
I do, yeah, I do.
Did you go with your Naruto bandana and run through the desert to infiltrate the facilities?
You didn't see me on that video? I did not, but that was very interesting in how, that was all handled. And granted, it's a military base, base. It's a military establishment, but still, I think they retracted it, but they literally basically said, if you guys do this, we're gonna just,
yeah. So I guess to explain a bit for maybe those that don't know, it's an event that happened. It was 2018 or 19.
I don't know if it was. I want to say 2019.
Yeah, I think it was 2019, but it was close to before the pandemic started. So it was an event that was organized by someone on Facebook. Someone, I guess, on a forum had a bright idea that, man, what happens if a bunch of people enter at the same time? Like, they cannot stop us all at once.
Right.
It had like a bunch of people that were, on Facebook, they had that, oh, there's an event and you say that you're attending the event, and they had like thousands of people that subscribed to that, and there were a lot of commotion going on, and it was covered on the news. Like, supposedly the government was investigating what was a Naruto run, because they were gonna run so fast as ninjas and they were gonna infiltrate the base. And man, it was a whole, yeah, like you said, I guess event. I guess only one person that was reported. And it was like an old woman that just started walking and just walked in and started walking, and okay, and that was the only person that went in. And I guess someone with a camcorder put a feet above the line that they were supposed to go in, and to the point, it was not a successful raid of Area 51 or anything like that.
No, no, it wasn't. And I think the guy who, or quote unquote, organized it ended up saying that it wasn't serious. It was a joke. I think what they ended up doing was they had like it was close to Area 51. The people did end up going to like a location where they had like a party or whatever, a music playing and stuff like that. So I think they did it, made it kind of like a little festival kind of thing out of it, but nothing actually transpired as far as actually storming it. I mean, I, I was curious just because I wanted to kind of see. I don't want to see anybody get hurt or killed, but I wanted to see what was going to happen if people literally did start storming. You know, but when I think people changed their tune when the military was like,
They see the
fuck
guns,
around,
they see
yeah,
the armament, yeah.
yeah, fuck around and find out, basically. And people were like, oh, okay, maybe I won't.
It's funny because here in the States, I guess because we're living in the States, there's the most talk about, but maybe I'm not that familiar. Would any other country have something similar to an Area 51, say, China or Russia or Germany or France, having their own Area
I
51? Because, I mean,
I would assume, yeah.
it's not that aliens are not interested just in the US. I mean, if you take into consideration
Oh no, no.
other land masses that are bigger than the U.S., it's more of a possibility that they would have landed there. No.
Well, and especially when you look at most of the stuff that is quote unquote unexplained on how they built it or the similarities, most of that stuff is not in the United States. It's in other countries. I mean, one of the big ones that they like to talk about is Puma Punku, which is in Bolivia. And that one has it's basically the ruins of Puma Punku, but the stone, the way that the stone was made, looked like it was laser cut. And they have their different holes that they have in the stone, and basically the precision of the cuts on a stone were looked like they were done with modern day equipment, almost like like I said, laser cut, or I mean, the measurements were so perfect, and we're talking about thousands of years ago. So that's one. Another big one, a place that I always wanted to go, and hopefully I will one of these days, is Stonehenge. In England. What the hell is that thing? How the hell did they get those boulders and those rocks weighing tons, on top of each other like that? And it's not complete now. It's, the way it was when it was totally complete. It was in a perfect circle. Just different things like that. And again, why was it built like that? Why? Is there a reason? Another thing. What's up with all the obelisks? Why? Why is that such a thing across the entire world? All these ancient obelisks, to the point of the goddamn Washington Monument is a freaking obelisk. Why?
Was it the Easter Islands, the heads that are on the stones?
That's another big one. Yeah, that's another big one.
I know roughly. I haven't seen like a History Channel or one of those shows in a while, but I sort of remember some of those. They explaining how they build them, or having theories of how they did, like making the holes and putting like the stones face down, and because they're close to the water, waiting for the water level to rise to a certain point, or using the same inclination of the hills. They came up with all these believable explanations that you're like, well, maybe they used one of those,
Oh, most definitely. I mean, and there could be legitimate reasons that they were built in that fashion and built the way they were and looked the way they were. and whatnot. But I guess obviously without knowing, then you could really kind of go either way as far as why are these things so similar when one is literally across the planet from each other? Did both of these cultures have the same exact ideas, the same exact stories? Again, going back to like mythology and stuff like that, it's all very similar. Why? How come it's similar? So similar when they had no form of communication back then. So
What I allude that to, obviously, that's me, that is verifiable, whatever, but for me, it's the sort of notion that from the human mind, even though we as a species is so fantastical, the things that we can come up with, but it's still the same human mind, no matter where you put it in the world to some extent. So it's like someone can make a music composition and someone from a different culture that maybe they don't know they haven't heard of the other, it's a different genre, they can come up with a piece of musical arrangement that is similar, even though they don't know each other, but it still came from both of them. That's the closest that I can allude to different cultures being able to come up with similarities, because again, we're human.
no, it's a more than fair point. Like you said, we're all, obviously we're all different, and people come up with fantastical ideas, with the movies and comics and stuff of, that we read and watch today. But, when it boils down to it, ultimately, we're all the same species, right? And we're all, and there's definitely instinct, and there's definitely stuff that is very, it's obviously identical across the entire species. Um, and you can kind of equate that a little bit more if you start to look at like animal species and why, certain animals do certain things, when they're not even taught to do these things. It's just natural instinct. And maybe that could be said the same when it comes to, some of the stuff that's in, portions of our brain.
Being that it is, what, why is it always big heads the usual representation of aliens?
I don't know, but I kind of like the look. I think it's cool. And you know what? I think this is one of the reasons that I really like the show Stargate, because Stargate leans real heavy into the ancient alien stuff, and the way they do, like all their different the mythologies, they're all actually extraterrestrial, and the gray aliens, the little short, real thin, big head, big eyes, the grays, and in the Stargate world, that's the Norse mythology. So when they meet Thor, he's one of them little aliens.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I always got a kick out of that. But they lean heavy into it because it's most of it's based off Egyptian mythology, with where the
Yeah,
pyramids.
that's what I figured. It was. I haven't seen the show, but I from what the media and the marketing is usually like Egyptian based, but they had like other influences from other mythologies on the show.
Very much so, very much so, and it's a great show. I definitely recommend it. People out there haven't seen it. It's really fun. SG-1 was great. Atlantis was great as well. But yeah, so I like it because they lean into it, and because I just find it fascinating, and I really enjoy watching and listening to different viewpoints of this kind of stuff, because we don't know. We don't know. I mean, there's people that will probably argue with you and say, "Hell, well, yeah, we do know." And maybe there are people on this planet that do know, but from our standpoint, you and I, and probably most of the listeners out there, we don't. We have no idea if we've ever been visited, or there's a lot of different things that have been seen and recorded. They recently, in what it was 2017, where they had the military footage of the two UFO objects where it was legitimate, military footage that was released to the public from the government, and they don't know what these objects were. They were moving, at way faster speeds than we could move in any of our aircraft, and they were performing maneuvers that would be impossible for any of our aircraft to do.
And they would discredit the matter of fact that it was some debris entering the atmosphere and catching fire and moving in the sky or something.
Yeah, there's so many different things we don't. People will always ask why haven't we gone back to the moon? Why?
Expensive.
Well, and that is probably exactly why. Yes, 100%. But there's people that will question why we haven't. Were we told not to come back, or did we find something we shouldn't have? Blah blah blah. That kind of good stuff. So, it's. I've always been intrigued by it. I've always been interested in it, and like I said earlier when we were talking, I want to see one. I haven't seen a damn UFO. It's disappointing to me. But it also baffling to the point of, if you look at today's day and age, where everybody has a camera now in their pocket. Why have we not seen more, footage?
Because people are taking TikToks of dances and.
Well, there it is.
Sorry, it's just that it's quite a fair point that why when someone is so easily to record these things, no one has been able to either. I don't know. They're not going. Usually, the people that will go outside for a hike usually are not paying too much attention to their phone. For example, that are retired from urban areas, and I doubt that in an urban area you will see this sort of I guess intelligent life, because if they're intelligent, I guess they would avoid if they didn't want to be detected, like largely populated areas, or again, stretching it, have a sort of technology that they're able to cloak themselves.
Exactly. Can they if they're that technologically advanced, you can make the argument that if they didn't want to be caught on camera, that they wouldn't be caught on camera.
Yeah, but see, that's the sort of thing that when you start to stretch it and put things upon it, everything is possible, So when it falls into the realm of being believable or not, if you're gonna look for the arguments for it to be believable, you're gonna find it.
And that's why I really like the term UFO, where it's unexplained flying object, and what's the other one is UAP, which is unexplained aerial phenomenon, if I believe. If I
UAP.
UAP is a new term. Yeah.
Okay.
Unexplained aerial phenomenal, or no, aerial phenomena. Basically, and I like both of that terminology, and I think there's misconceptions. People think, oh, it's UFO, so it's aliens. No, it just means that we don't know what it is. That doesn't necessarily mean it's extraterrestrial of nature. That just means it's a phenomenon or something that maybe the general public doesn't know about, yet.
What would you do if you encounter a UFO or a UAP? Just say it and hey, it says okay, we'll go back to.
Well, I would go and grab. I would grab my phone and try to record it, obviously. But I'd be so excited. I wanted to see it. What is that? That's why I was so disappointed when I missed. When I found out that I missed the Phoenix Lights, and I was in Phoenix, at the time, because a lot of people saw this, and unfortunately it was 97, so there was not a whole lot of video of it. So nowadays it would be much easier because everybody's got a video recorder in their pocket and a camera. So that's why it baffles my mind as to why we're not seeing more, but maybe we are. I don't know.
Man, it's tough because if I know that there's life out there, let's put it like I said earlier. I know that there's life out there, but
there it is.
I know that there's life out there because again, it's quantifiably impossible. But it's the same sort of a conversation like zombies. Do you prefer fast zombies or you prefer slow zombies, or So as far as aliens go, because again, we don't have verifiable, we haven't tangible evidence. I believe that everyone can go and see it on a museum or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that aliens would be like you say, like the little guys, gray aliens, big head, big eyes, or it would be something like Dead Space, like mutating aliens that go and haunt you, or something like xenomorphs? Like, what do you think really would be the aliens like?
I mean, I would lean towards the grays,
But how do
only
you know that?
because you don't know that, but I would not say that they would be, like from the movie Alien, or like you said from Dead Space, or a lot of the, those, because can you say that those creatures are, intelligent creatures? They don't have the technology, or they build the
The
technology.
predator is pretty intelligent.
Predator, probably, yeah, that one would probably be, that would probably be, could quite possibly be, sure,
or
but yeah, who knows, man?
or what was the War of the Worlds? Those aliens as well, I guess, were rather intelligent to some extent.
They were only intelligent yeah, they were very intelligent, similar to science.
I said to some extent, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think they were smarter than science. I mean, in War of the Worlds, it was the atmosphere that so maybe they some miscalculations, but science, what was it, water? If I remember, this was a M. Night Shyamalan movie, so you know this twist is gonna be stupid. But what was it? Water would kill them. So it's like, okay, if they knew they couldn't handle water, the hell you coming to Earth for? Most of the damn planet's water.
It was the conditions on the what was in the water. No, obviously the H2O as pure, maybe.
All right, I guess I could buy that.
The amount of the water that you can find here is not the same that you can find on Mars or whatever they found uh, in other planets. Obviously, it's gonna be different conditions, exposure, and mixture. But to the point that I was bringing that up is just how fantastical the fact that people not knowing and using their creativity to come up with all these representation of aliens being lost in space, or E.T., the Xenomorph, the Predator, the Wild, the World, Stargate, you name it. It's gonna be why is it always something that is rather humanoid? Can it be sustained by some other form, like other life form that doesn't need to have extremities or the like?
Right, right. It's because we're an arrogant species.
Yeah, so we're seeing other species as we see us. So who knows?
Correct.
Maybe the aliens are bears. There's a bunch of bears flying on a spaceship. Who
They
knows?
could. I mean, and you've already been visited by one. But it's 100% true, and it's also, and going back to us being the only intelligent species out there. Also, that's our nature. Is it impossible? No, but it's unlikely. In my in my estimation, in my low uneducated opinion. But I wish I could speak more intelligently on this topic, only because the stuff that they show on the Asian aliens is actually really interesting. Whether you believe it or you don't believe it, or you want to make fun of the goofy guy from the memes, that's cool.
Oh, the guy saying aliens. Raising the hands.
Aliens.
Yeah, aliens.
Exactly. Yeah. You, if you do sit down and actually give the show a watch, and I mean, it's gone on for seasons upon seasons. There are, I mean, it's not just flat out dumb, theories that they're throwing around, and they don't try to convince you, in a fashion of saying this is exactly what happened. It's more to just kind of get your mind going, and that's what I really like about it. It's kind of get your mind going about some of the stuff. It's like, okay, maybe this was, built for this reason, or maybe it wasn't built for that reason. We don't know. And I like that kind of stuff. I think it's real interesting to me. If you were going to ask me, I probably would lean more towards the alien, or the ancient alien theory than I would not. Only just because a lot of the stuff is it's just too coincidental, and maybe too fantastical to be able to be constructed during that time period with what we believe that they had versus what we have now. But obviously there's no proof, there's no,
I
you
mean,
know,
like I know that you like doing a hot take. I guess this is gonna be my hot take for this
hot
week.
takes. I love it. I love it.
And it's not so much a hot take. I guess a lot of people, but a lot of people will say, and I to some extent can see it. Some people say that the Big Bang is just a coincidence as well.
Oh well, yeah, no
So
doubt.
so so it just so happens that yeah, I mean, it's one thing with coincidence that you can search it only so far, like because you really cannot put two and two together. It doesn't mean that you don't know that the resort was gonna be, or yeah, you're seeing the resort, but you're not able to put it together.
Well, yeah, I would think that the right time, right place kind of thing. But we're also talking about something that's natural versus something that was constructed by a human.
How do you know that the Big Bang wasn't made by someone?
I don't. I don't.
Ooh.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Now, who made the person who made the Big Bang? So we can keep going down that rabbit hole if we want to.
Yeah, but
Endless void.
go back.
Can't go back now. Can't go back to.
Mhm.
So, but no, it's something that I find interesting. I enjoy hearing, your takes on different things. And like I said, I'm no expert. It's just
Yeah, no, none of us. So it's just the exposure and the experiences that we have, and we try to the mix and see what comes out of it.
yeah, I wish I could talk a little bit more intelligently about some of this stuff, but it was just something that came to my mind. I'm like, hey, let's talk about this for a little bit and see what happens. But you know what? Maybe some other people out there who are listening can hit us up on Reddit, on Facebook, on YouTube, whatever your flavor is, and maybe they have some stories or pictures or whatever about their experiences. Maybe they've seen some UFOs, and it'd be awesome to hear about other people's experiences. Or maybe there's people that say no, it's completely asinine and you're crazy. And yeah, that may be the case, but I'd like to know why you think that. So that'll be pretty cool.
We're gonna get someone with a name, alias or dead. I'm gonna say you have no verifiable to throwing someone in the middle out there. But
Yeah, well,
yeah, I definitely would like to hear what people will say.
yeah, definitely. So I mean, I think I'm gonna go ahead and say that, like I said, I lean towards the ancient aliens theory. I'm not an ancient alien theorist, but I lean towards it because I think it's cool. I like
I lean to the whatever alien species out there that let at least not be like Independence Day or a Xenomorph or any other of those depictions that are horrible and very jarring.
it. Hey, I mean, it was a Reagan who made that comment. He was addressing the United Nations or whatever it was, and he made the comment of it would be, and I'm obviously paraphrasing. I don't know the exact quote, but he said something to the effect of, "It would be amazing how quickly the differences, our differences between each other around the world would come to an end if some extraterrestrial
Force.
threat, yeah, came from this planet." And 100% right. All of a sudden, our quote unquote petty differences wouldn't really make that big of a difference anymore, would it?
And you get something like the Watchmen.
Yeah. The day after tomorrow, or not? No, Independence Day.
The list go on.
Exactly. Yeah. That's it for the aliens, man. It's well, I'm gonna be looking tonight, see if I see any UFOs. I'll take some pictures.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard for me. I guess I'm not looking outside too much, but we'll see. We'll see. And you let me know.
Yeah. Oh, I will. I'll post it on our Reddit. You got anything else, my friend?
No, I was gonna ask you, as the host, do you have anything else for us?
I don't. I mean, there's still a lot of different discuss when it comes to this this topic. It's just that it would take so long to kind of dive into each one. I wanted just more of a general thing, just to kind of maybe spice things up a little bit. It was fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you
It was fun.
for bringing that to the table.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for giving me your input as well. So hopefully everybody else enjoyed it. And tune in next time when we'll have something else crazy to discuss.
We'll see you in the next one, everyone.
Take care.